Hello and welcome to our Senate Resources demonstration video. Today we'll be going over regular bill process in the Senate. My name is Connor Boren. I'm the President Pro Tempore of the Senate.
And my name is Audrey Fleshoot, and I currently serve as the Deputy President Pro Tempore of the Senate.
First, we're going to need someone to call orders of the day. Orders of the day are how the body knows to get moving and start hearing our next piece of legislation. But our orders of the day also refers to the actual bill that we're going to be hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Floor Leader. Mr. Secretary, will you please read the short title and any amendments?
OB 001, an act relating to police vehicles, providing short title, or providing for codification, amending Oklahoma Statute 4712-18 through 18, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Is there an author present?
Indeed, there is.
So now that the bill has been introduced to the Senate by the floor leader, and the short title and amendments has been read by the Secretary, we're now in line for Authors X. This is where the author gets to make their case on why their bill should be passed to the Senate.
It's important to remember that as the author, you direct your comments to the body, and when asking questions, you direct your questions to the author.
Seeing that there's an author present, author, you are now recognized for a time not to exceed 3 minutes and time for Authors X, beginning when you do.
Thank you, Chair. Please direct my comments to the body. I wrote this bill because I knew some people that had bad interactions with people that were impersonating police while at a traffic stop. And I saw many issues with how police cars were marked in the state of Oklahoma. So currently, traffic stops are allowed to have unmarked police cars being used. This is used so that they can make sure that the public doesn't know if they're police. However, in a normal traffic stop situation, this just doesn't seem necessary. When you're stopped for speeding or running a stop sign, something like that, generally you like to know and be able to identify law enforcement. It's important because someone can be impersonating police officers, or in a situation where things get more dangerous or there's some kind of more illegal situation going on. It's important to be able to identify when law enforcement are around. Some other things that are an issue when it comes to unmarked cars are that beyond the impersonation issue is that this has ended up in a lot of court cases where people have either been impersonating police officers or civilians have thought that someone was impersonating a police officer during a traffic stop. This has led to reports from many Oklahoma counties, including Oklahoma County, Hughes County, Potawatomi County, and more. So this is something that's really being affected citizens in the state of Oklahoma. This came from a law called Lacey's Law in Colorado, dealing with impersonation of police officers. It's important to allow people to know when law enforcement is part of the public. Additionally, it helps with traffic because when people see that police are around, they tend to follow traffic laws more so. When we have unmarked cars, it's been shown that people don't follow traffic laws as well. And so this law only limits the use of unmarked cars in regular traffic stops. And if there's an investigation going on or something like that, unmarked cars can still be used. But this is specifically addressing traffic stops. And with that, I yield my time to questions.
By her own actions, the author has yielded 53 seconds in time for questions, leaving 5 minutes and 53 seconds in time for questions. Shall there be questions? Senator Bell on the first question.
Please direct my question to the author. Madam Author, how do you think that this increased visibility will impact traffic stop experiences for average citizens?
Right, so for the average citizen to, whether they're in a traffic stop or they're in a situation where law enforcement needs to be around, it's helpful for the public safety, not only just for the individual, but for everyone involved, if everyone can identify who is part of law enforcement and who is not. So yes.
Senator Cohen on the next question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please direct my question to the author. Author, in section 2B, it mentions that the lights have to be viewable for 360 degrees. increase on police units. Is the author aware that some police units contain these lights within the grill guard?
So that is part of what you're mentioning is part of current Oklahoma statute, which is not what I'm amending, so it's currently just what is on the books. I am now aware that some lights operate differently than other lights.
I'll follow. Follow-up will be granted. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please direct my question to the author. Would the author be open to an amendment changing that from 360 to 180?
No, as my intent has to do with marked and unmarked cars and not to do with police lights, I would not be in favor of that. But the body will move as the body will move.
Senator Davenport on the next question.
Thank you, Chair. Please direct my question to the author. Author, are you aware that some unmarked cars have lights on them already?
So this bill is not really addressing the lights. Where the lights are mentioned in this bill is currently just regular state statute. What I'm amending is dealing with the marked signage on cars, so they those decals that exist on these cars. The reason why this is important is because the average citizen is going to recognize a law enforcement vehicle by the signage on the car when it says such and such city police. That is how we will recognize that that's a police car. Depending on what kind of lights exist or not, may be helpful at identifying cars, but having that signage is the most important part.
Senator Bosch on the next question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Permission for a two-part.
Permission granted.
Madam Author, is it the intention of this legislation to increase police visibility overall? And if so, would you be open to an amendment that would require law enforcement officers to wear high visibility clothing?
Yes, it is the governor's opinion that this bill is really addressing visibility overall for law enforcement, so it would be in favor of that.
Senator Hurlbut on the next question.
Press Pro, please direct my question to the author. Do you believe...
And with that, time for questions has elapsed.
Now the time for questions has passed. The floor is now open for people to make motions. A common motion to make here is if you still have questions to ask the author after time has elapsed, you can move to extend time for questions.
Senator Hurlbut, on what point do you rise?
On motion.
On motion, Senator Hurlbut.
I move to extend time for questions by 5 minutes.
Motion for the body to extend time for questions by 5 minutes. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Senator Davenport, on what point do you rise?
And if you feel that the motion currently being made could be amended to better suit the needs of the body, you are more than willing and able to make an amendatory motion.
Amendatory motion, Senator Davenport.
I motion to extend time, but to the end of the list and close the list.
Motion for the body, Senator Hurlbut, do you accept?
On information?
On information, Senator Hurlbut.
How many names are currently on the list?
One.
I accept.
The motion for the body is to extend time for questions until the end of the list. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Having heard a second, do I hear consent? I'll propose this by a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. The chair is not in doubt. The ayes do have it. This motion hereby carries. Senator Davenport, since your motion is the one that passed, you are now recognized for our next question.
Asked and answered.
Okay, Senator Hurlbut on the final question.
Thank you, Mr. Pressborough. Please direct my question to the author. Madam Author, do you believe that unmarked cars provide an advantage for collecting accurate information about where traffic violations are most likely to occur?
So the research that I looked at really showed that when people see law enforcement vehicles on the road, they will adhere to traffic laws more so than when there are unmarked cars. So is it maybe a possibility that we could get some accurate data on driving behavior? Maybe, but this law or this bill is really trying to address the public peace so that we can have better all traffic law adherence overall in the state of Oklahoma, and also calming the nerves of people that are stopped by law enforcement.
Now the time for questions is done with. We are now in line to hear amendments. Amendments are to be moved one at a time or sometimes as a block to expedite the process.
And with that, time for questions has elapsed. Senator Bacha, when you rise. On a motion, Senator Bacha.
I move amendments 1 and 2 as a block.
The motion before the body is to hear amendments 1 and 2 as a block. Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second? Do I hear consent? Having heard a second and consent, I'll propose this motion by a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Nay.
Division.
Division has been called. The chair is in doubt. All those in favor of the motion to hear amendments 1 and 2 as a block, please stand and raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. You may be seated. And with that, the ayes do have it, and this motion hereby carries. We are now in line to hear amendments 1 and 2 as a block. May the Secretary please read the amendments.
Amendment 1, amending page 1, section 2, add a new subsection to read E. Law enforcement officers will be required to have at least 50% of their upper uniforms covered with high visibility colors. Author Bacha. And Amendment 2, amending page 1, section 2, subsection B, replace 360 with 180. Author Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Are the authors present?
Indeed they are.
Seeing as the authors are present, you are now recognized for a rule of 5 minutes in time for authors X, beginning when you do.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please direct my comments to the body. Body, you may or may not have heard, but the author is in favor of this amendment. This legislation, now with the amendment, is going to increase police visibility overall, not only through the cars, but also through the officers themselves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please direct my comments to the body. Body, I think regardless of the intent of the bill and what statute she was changing, I think it's important that we make these changes to change from 360-degree visibility to 180-degree visibility, just to make sure that we are getting it done now and not have to wait for a bill to be written. Thank you. Thank you.
By their own actions, the authors have yielded 2 minutes and 5 seconds in time for questions, leaving 5 minutes and 5 seconds in time for questions. Shall there be questions? Senator Bell, you're recognized for the first question.
Thank you, Mr. Priceborough. Please direct my question to the author of Amendment 2. Author, by amending 360 degrees to 180 degrees, you limit the light's visibility. Don't you think this contradicts the author's original intent?
Well, it sounds like it does, but I do think that it might still be important regardless, and might need to be an effective change that we need to make.
Shall there be questions? Shall there be questions? Seeing none, I'll declare time for questions closed.
Now that we've heard authors X and questions to the author on these amendments, we are going to move to break the block so that we can vote on them individually.
Senator Bell, on what point do you rise? On a motion, Senator Bell.
I move to break the block.
The motion before the body is to break the block. Do I hear a second? Okay, having heard a second, do I hear consent? Having heard a second and consent, I'll propose this by unanimous consent without objection, objection. This motion hereby passes. We are now in line for the final reading of Amendment 1. Mr. Secretary, you are now recognized.
Amendment 1, amending page 1, section 2, add a new subsection to read E. Law enforcement officers will be required to have at least 50% of their upper uniforms covered with high visibility colors. Author Bacha.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. We are now in line for a final vote on Amendment 1. I will propose this by a voice vote. All those in favor of Amendment 1, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Nay.
The chair is not in doubt. The ayes do have it. This amendment is hereby adopted into the bill. We are now in line for the final reading of Amendment 2. Will the Secretary please read the amendment?
Amendment 2, amending page 1, section 2, subsection B, replace 360 with 180. Author Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. We are now in line for a final vote on Amendment 2. I will propose this by voice vote. All those in favor of Amendment 2, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Nay. The chair is not in doubt. The nays do have it, and this amendment hereby fails. The floor is now open.
Because there's no more discussion to be had on the bill or amendments, it's time to put the bill to a vote. To put a bill to a vote immediately, you can move to previous question the bill.
Senator Earl, on all points, rise. On motion, Senator Earl.
I move to previous question as bill as amended.
The motion before the body to previous question is bill as amended. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Do I hear consent?
Second.
Having heard a second and consent, I'll propose this by unanimous consent without objection. So ordered. We are now in line for a final reading of the bill. Senator Davenport, on what points you rise?
On a motion.
On a motion, Senator Davenport.
I motion to waive the reading of the second reading of the short title and any of the amendments.
Okay. The motion of the body is by suspension of the rules to waive the second reading of the short title and any amendments. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Having heard a second, do I hear consent? Consent. Having heard a second and consent, I'll propose this by unanimous consent without objection. So ordered. We are now in line for a final roll call vote. Will the Secretary please commence the roll call vote?
Now that we've moved in time to vote, it's important to understand your options as a senator for how to vote. Your options are yes, no, and abstain. After votes have been tallied, the President Pro Tempore will ask if you would like to change your vote, at which point you can do so. As a proxy, you have some options as well. So senators have main voting privileges, and then we have alternates. If you are a main voting delegate, you may choose to give your voting privileges to an alternate, and then they become your proxy. If you're a proxy, you will vote like this. If I was a proxy for our President Pro Tempore, once his name is called on the roll, I will say, Pres Pro Boren, I just stuttered, Pres Pro Boren, proxy, Deputy Fleshu, yes.
Yes.
Baggett,
Yes.
Barnett,
Yes.
Brooks,
Brooks, Proxy, Saunders, yes.
Davenport,
Yes.
Reason,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Rules Chair Gardner,
Yes.
Humphrey,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Hurlbut,
Abstain.
Cohen, Little,
Yes.
Min,
Yes.
Hare,
Yes.
Wayne,
No.
Humsey,
Yes.
Ramsey,
Ramsey, Proxy, Aye.
Robinson,
No.
White,
Yes.
Mr. President,
Abstain.
Madam Deputy.
Abstain.
Votes have been taken.
Are there any senators wishing to change their votes at this time? Senator Cohen. From an abstention to a no. Senator Cohen from an abstention to a no. Is there anyone else wishing to change their votes at this time? With that, I will declare time for voting closed. Body will stand at each while we tabulate the votes. The body will come back to order. With 16 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative, and 3 abstentions, this bill hereby passes the Honorable Senate. Senator Bacha, with you guys. On a motion, Senator Bacha.
I move to recess for 5 minutes.
The motion before the body is to recess for 5 minutes. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Do I hear consent? Having heard a second and consent, I'll propose this by unanimous consent without objection. So is the order. The body will now recess for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much for watching. We hope this video is helpful in learning how the Senate hears legislation.